Well, that's a rather interesting position coming from a man on a crusade against the evils of technology.
I'm not against technology, Doctor. I'm against the men who deify it at the expense of human truth.
Armor of Truth. Live.
In the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism,
Faith is resistance.
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Find us at the Armor of Truth YouTube channel and log on armoroftruth.net.
Surprise, surprise, my friends. Welcome to True Normal TV. Yes, we're going to test the waters. No, we're not. We're going to do a show for you tonight over here on True Normal TV because shut down on Armor of Truth YouTube channel. That's right. 1 week of YouTube jail for us. We'll talk about that just a little bit tonight, and also we're going to talk about this whole deal with the world's major religions gathering at Mount Sinai to receive their 10 Commandments. For anyone who didn't think that this was about religion, that this was about a true religious movement, well, it's all out in the open now. Nothing is hidden. So, we'll talk about the simulation theory here first, because that's the video that got shut down. Can you believe it? Yes, we were accused of, how should I say this to keep from getting in more trouble? They said that we were inciting violence, glorifying it. Can't find anything in there that's even close to that. We obviously appealed it, and they very quickly, within an hour, because the video was 3 hours long, surely human being, went back and closely took a look at all of it, right? A 3-hour video to determine whether or not that was a fair takedown. No, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. They got back to us very quickly and told us that it was rejected. And, well, it's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt on things like this. In that video, that was Armor of Truth Live number 188. And we were talking about simulation theory. It was this. This is the idea. The theory that argues at least one of the following propositions is true. The human species is very likely to go extinct before reaching a post-human stage. Any post-human civilization is unlikely to run Any post-human civilization is unlikely to run simulations of their evolutionary history. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. I think that's a typo there. Any post-human civilization is likely to run simulations of their evolutionary history. So the idea being that any sufficiently advanced civilization moving, as we are here, think about 2,000 years down the line, 5,000, 10,000 years down the line, how advanced the technology would be. The theory is they will be so advanced that they'll be almost timeless, because they'll be able to make simulations of their history, of everything that's happened up to that point. And that's probably what we are. That's the argument. We're almost certainly living in a computer simulation. All this is, folks, is a way for, as Romans 1 says, for men to suppress knowledge of God and to come up with some other way that the universe arrived here in this situation. They know that the universe cannot be eternal. That's no argument. That argument has no legs. You can't stand on that. They know that Big Bang doesn't really make any sense because it requires a big banger. Something had to cause it. Anyway, so this is what our video 188 was about. We also talked a little bit about, talked about Russia, Ukraine a little bit. Talked about the First Lady of Ukraine. And here's a clip from Armor of Truth Live number 188, just so you can see for yourself a little bit about what we were talking about. Yeah, this is exclusive, by the way. It's no longer on YouTube.
13.8 billion years old.
Symbiotic relationship with the internet or the next level of indistinguishable from regular reality. That this is real? When I touch that
Feels
wood,
very real. Feels
wood,
very real.
Yeah. That's almost what that is.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, man?
Mandela effects. Berenstein Bears, you got your Ford logo and all the other things that you think are a certain way, you remember it being a certain way, and it blows your mind.
So, the newest thing everyone is speaking about is, did CERN actually open up a black gate or a portal to actually change our reality? You see, this is not the first time this Mandela effect actually took place. It actually started around 2011 and 2012. You know, the Mayan calendar and the end of the world and so on and so on. Remember this? In 2011, 2012, everyone was losing their mind. They just knew the Mayan calendar and the world was going to come to an end. Just like now, when CERN took place, everyone thinks the world is going to come to an end. Let me be clear about what's really going on. We had this thing called the pineal gland that's really, really important, but a lot of people still don't use it. This is what creates our reality, and this is what changes our reality. So if we can focus,
are you using your pineal gland?
Use our energy against us and make a new reality, and that's what's going on right now. This is the real magic. It's the illusions of light and frequencies and vibrations. We are literally manifesting our reality every second by the ideas they give us. This is their ritual. This is their game that we are playing.
The simulation theory is that our reality isn't a reality at all, but actually we're in some sort of extremely advanced simulation. Your consciousness is software.
The fundamental premise is that there's a mysterious, super advanced civilization that runs computer programs to simulate all sorts of phenomena, including reality itself.
So the argument goes that we're almost certainly living in a simulated reality.
What if there is some advanced civilization that is far beyond where humans are? Then could they create a simulation that is something like what we consider reality?
What if you had an alien civilization that had been working on this for millions, if not billions of years?
Reality could get more and more advanced to the point where you can't tell it apart from the real world.
There are so many atoms in the universe, so many possible simulations, so many possible futures. Someplace on the earth, there could be angels and unicorns.
Did you hear him? There could be angels and unicorns. Now, this is what it's like when men work really, really hard at as hard as they can to deny.
You know, even if we just
reality.
sort of existed as humans forever, we'd still eventually, that'd be like the heat death of the universe.
Right.
A zillion years from now. Eventually it's going to end.
Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey.
And so there you have it, folks. That was at least the introduction to the Armor of Truth Live number 188.
Yes, indeed, it is Armor of Truth Live.
There's
number
me.
188.
Who is this
That's
guy?
a lot of Armor of Truth Lives.
Welcome, my friends. It is time for us to dive. He has given up. Don't watch it again. You can find. Anyway, it goes on here, and I start talking a little bit about, simulation, the hyperreal, how postmodern culture, how all of this fits together. Talked a little bit about the LGBTQ ideology, and that's all we can come up with. That's all we can come up with, is that they didn't like the way we talked about either that or the way we covered the Ukraine story. We don't know because YouTube doesn't tell you what you did, right? Like a good totalitarian would, right? Keep you guessing. It's like it's trauma. It's a type of trauma-based mind control, always keeping you off balance. So anyway, we're not gonna dwell on this too much longer. We just wanted to let you know that yes, we're shut down for a week. We'll be back on, Lord willing, we'll be back on Armor of Truth YouTube channel next week. We'll see what happens. Miss Summer, how are you enjoying your week off?
Well, we've been catching up on all the stuff that we need to get done too. So, but I think it's nice. It's actually good to have a little bit of a break, switch gears, and focus on other projects.
Yeah,
what do you think? What do you think about it?
I think there's a purpose. I think there's a purpose for it. I think that what we need to do is remain faithful, do what we do,
absolutely,
and we'll see what God has in store for this timeout that we've received. Don't know. It certainly is. It certainly isn't uniform or fair in any way. The way YouTube.
Well, it has caused us to look into other avenues, more seriously, as far as just.
You want to update the folks on what we may be able to do in the future?
Well, I want to keep it under wraps for now because I want to make sure that it's what we're doing, But we are actually looking at other ways to stay connected to you guys, and hopefully getting a mobile app so we can push notifications out that way.
A what?
Mobile app. Woohoo! Because we know that the algorithm does not like us, so.
No.
Yeah.
No, the algorithm hates us.
It does. But we're still here by the grace of God.
By the grace of God only. Mm-hmm. Because the algorithm shows no grace.
No, it doesn't.
The algorithm shows no grace. And in light of all that, please, if you're one of the 3 or 4 people that will actually come across this video, please, 3 or 4 people, spread this. We need you. You 3 or 4 people who actually come across and watch this video are so important. You don't even realize how important you are. It's all riding on you.
No pressure.
Spread the word, right? Just let people know about Armor of Truth. Let them know about True Normal TV, our backup channel. This is where we come whenever we get shut down, because that does happen from time to time. Okay, 11 beautiful souls watching live tonight. That's pretty good for a channel where we never do anything live and we just show up in the middle of the night.
Izzy Boo and Crystal and Reed Romans. Yeah. Hello. Good to see you guys.
It's live chat. We haven't seen that in a while, have we?
It's been a while, yeah.
Don't tell anybody. We're over here live chatting.
Crystal's like, I'm 13 minutes late.
You haven't missed anything.
Yeah, we were just talking about why our channel got shut down, so you can just catch that on the replay. Yeah.
It's boring.
It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, it is. It is nice to see some friendly faces in the chat. We don't see many friendly faces anymore. All right, so we're here to talk about tonight this weirdness, the world's major religions gathering on Mount Sinai to receive their 10 Commandments. All right. Let's listen to a little clip here from the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development. Right, this is a spiritual endeavor, no question about it. Check this out. We can do without the music.
It's not just about the birds and the bees, the trees and the toads. It's about the human being and how we live as spiritual beings in a physical reality. So what does faith leadership look like if it truly has a seat at the table? I think a key role for faith communities is to reframe the situation that we're in and to reframe the problem. The way that we understand the problem affects how we understand the solution. Climate change, biodiversity loss, acidification of the ocean, plastic pollution, those are all symptoms of a problem. The deeper problems are apathy, greed, arrogance, short-term thinking, and seeking our fulfillment of pleasure in the physical.
In other words, the problem is you. It's you.
The solutions are not only about electric vehicles, renewable energy, but they're also about changing our operating system of humanity to one that seeks humility, long-term thinking, care for other creatures, care for other people. Those are the spiritual solutions, and scientists can't deliver those solutions, business people can't deliver them, and politicians can't deliver them. Only the religious communities can deliver on that.
Okay, he's absolutely right about that. But it's not the religious communities, right? Your worldview has to be founded in reality. You can't just be religious and expect that to be the answer. So I think that's about all he says here. Let's listen to a couple more seconds.
Now, one of the challenges that we're facing is that the ecological crisis is also a crisis of religion, because most clergy in the world, unfortunately, rarely preach or teach about the ecological crisis. It's an interfaith collaboration. It's across religions. And so one of the challenges is, how do we rewire religion so that seminaries train clergy to teach and preach on this topic? How do current clergy, the millions of current clergy in the world who have gone through a theological education program without focusing on religion and ecology, how do they have professional development so that they can preach and teach on this on a frequent basis?
How do we rewire religion? Nothing's hidden anymore. Nothing is hidden. And so that's where we are today. This is what we're talking about. The religious leaders gather in Sinai to receive the climate justice 10 commandments. So I'm going to share a piece with you here from Leo Hohmann. Here's another article from jcore2030.org. Justice at the heart of global transformation. This is a spiritual movement, my friends. And the fact that this is COP27. Now, after we work through this, we're going to look back at COP26 and just give you an idea. Look where this has come from. Worship of the earth is something that's just being mainstreamed. So stay tuned for this. So it tells you here. Let me just give you the lowdown. Now, this is Leo Hohmann. He's got a website called leohohmann.com. And look, we encourage you to check out his work and, support him. He was one of the guys who recently was, I guess, kicked out, shut down by PayPal. And, he's a brother in Christ out there doing good work on, trying to cover these topics and enlighten people to what's actually going on in these days, things that are important, things that are relevant for Christians to know about, but not to worry about. Let's keep that clear right from the start here. It's not our duty to worry about these things. We have the truth. We're not surprised by any of this. So the one world religion on full display, right? As fake faith leaders join globalist predators to push earth worship at the UN COP27 conference. So once again, it's all about climate hysteria, earth worship. That is the key component of the coming one world religion, and we're seeing it on full display in Egypt this week, right now, as we speak. It's going on at the United Nations COP27 climate conference. And the COP27 logo says it all. If you can see that on your screen, let's go full screen here. The top left corner of your screen there. The logo depicts the African sun above and embracing the ancient Egyptian Aten's sun below. You see the sun below there with looks like little hands coming off the ends of it, off the ends of the rays. This implies giving rise to a new horizon, a new world order. All of the global crises unleashed upon the earth since March 2020 have been aimed at one thing: depopulation. So, I know that's dangerous, isn't it? We might end up getting True Normal TV in the doghouse for a week if we keep that up, right? But the globalist plan calls for riding the wave of fear that's been created by these various global crises, whether they're engineered or natural, organic, doesn't matter. The result's the same. And they're going to ride this all the way to a new world order, as they call it, a great reset. They wish to restructure and reorder all human activity on earth, from the way we socialize and work to the way we worship. Now that one's very important. But also, not just the way we worship, but who/what we worship. Now, as it was in the Roman Empire, you can continue to have your Christianity. You can have your Islam. You can have your Judaism or your Hinduism. But you must agree to add earth worship into the mix. Not only that, you must agree to place it above the principles of your original religious choice. Now, this is how it was for the early Christians in the Roman Empire. These Christians didn't go to brutal deaths in crucifixions or being stoned to death or thrown to lions because they worshiped Christ, because they followed Christ. They went to brutal deaths because they worshiped Christ alone. Because they would not honor Caesar as Lord, Caesar as higher than Christ. And so we see at the COP27 conference that the hierarchy of the world's major religions are all willing to sacrifice their religious principles for the higher religion of earth worship, Gaia worship. More than 100 faith leaders have traveled to the COP27 conference to join with business and political leaders and give the conference an air of spirituality. Now, these globalists know that they cannot get the majority of people to accept this newly ordered sustainable lifestyle, as we call it, the new normal, or as we strike back with here, the true normal. That's what we're trying to give you. Forget about the new normal. Give me True Normal TV. I think that's a new, right, Summer? That's a new tagline, right? Mm-hmm. Forget the true normal. Give me the true normal. What did I just say?
This is true normal.
What did I just say? Forget the new normal. Give me the true normal.
Yes.
All right, back to the show. So, anyway, that's what they call it. Without a type of religious fervor, it won't work. They also need a few good crises. The more catastrophic and scarier these crises are, the better. That is what pandemic was all about. It was used to usher in the beginnings of this new way of life on planet Earth, where people accept a new reality of far less individual freedoms, far less privacy, and in the end, far less ownership of land, homes, firearms, vehicles, etc. You'll own nothing and be happy. That's not going to happen. In fact, you won't even own your body. Over the past 2 or more years, the vast majority of people worldwide showed that they were willing to accept this new normal. They showed it every time they dutifully put on their mask, took their tests, separated from friends, hunkered down, isolated, and ultimately lined up for shots as a result of the Great Reset is now moving on to the next level. It was a success. And as we've said here before, as Leo has said before, we're entering the kill phase, in which those who accepted the experimental gene therapy are suddenly dying on stages, on athletic fields, in their sleep, etc. In fact, we have a personal story in our own family of a boy, how can I say this? Of a jab injury, and we've seen it firsthand. Cancer, blood clots. What do you think about that? Summer's done some. She's found some interesting research. Now you can talk about it, but just talk around it a little bit. What you found from Epoch Times the other day.
Oh, they're just saying that there's an increase in wildfire cancers and long blood clots. So,
and that's exactly what we've been dealing with in our family.
Yeah.
Exactly. Those two things in the same person.
And shingles.
Oh, yes. That's true, too. And shingles as well.
Mm-hmm. So we've seen that. We've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah, we've seen that happen.
It's horrible.
It is. So, a year and a half ago, we were covering this, and we were talking about how it looks like this is going to happen, that's going to, and we were just doing everything we could to get the word out there. But it just happened anyway. It happened anyway. But this is not about that today. At the same time that all this is happening, the current world order is fracturing. As we've said here many times, it seems the goal is to destroy, to bring down the United States and to create this new multipolar world order, where it's not nations and governments that rule, but corporations that rule. The United States, NATO on one side, and China, Russia as corporate entities on the other. And the globalists who engineered this split are now driving the two sides toward World War III. Clearly they want it. This will be another huge population reducer. We can also expect new man-made plagues, as evidenced by the recent news about the new strain of, what's going around out there. Something that's been developed by researchers in Boston University with an 80% lethality rate. These globalists are also making war on our food supply chain by deliberately causing a diesel shortage, fertilizer shortage, and by pushing their green agenda and propaganda war against all things natural. Instead of beef, chicken, and cow's milk, they want us to eat crickets, mealworms, cockroach milk. Reliable coal, oil, and natural gas systems are being transferred over to unreliable wind and solar, except in China, where they're allowed to continue with reliable energy. Why is that? Because the nation who uses fossil fuels will be the leader in the world. That's academic. That is clear. Got it on the shelf behind me. It's Alex Epstein's book, Fossil Future. We did a show here. We'll talk about that more in just a moment. We did the show here recently. I think it was Net Zero Hell, or the suicide of net zero. But the Green Agenda, a.k.a. climate hysteria, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, all of it is inherently irrational. Why, for instance, would you take the world's second largest exporter of food, the Netherlands, and implement policies that make it harder for Dutch farmers to produce food? That's a plan. And the Dutch government, headed by a prime minister who is a protege of World Economic Forum globalist Klaus Schwab, is putting the pressure on farmers to cull their herds and reduce vital fertilizer usage at a time when everyone agrees we need more food being put into the pipeline, not less. We've seen this coming to a head now for at least 2 years, especially over the last year with the food supply. Killing millions of livestock. None of it makes any sense unless your agenda is not to feed the world, but to starve it. Starve it into submission. Now, because climate change is inherently irrational, we're going to save the planet by killing off large segments of the animal and human population. These globalists have had a difficult time selling that to the average Western citizen of America. People from Europe, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. There's been a lot of pushback. And the reason you see far less climate hysteria in dictatorships like China is because they already own the people of those countries. They don't need hysteria. They already have control. The climate agenda is about bringing the middle-class Western world to its knees, making its formerly free citizens comply with every new dietary dictate, every new restriction on speech, farming, our freedom of movement and assembly. So what do the globalists do when not enough people comply with their anti-human agenda? They do what dictators have always done. They incorporate their tyrannical, ideological agenda into a religious dogma. It was always headed here, my friends. It was always headed to this point. You can see the new religion unfolding this week in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, where the globalists are holding the United Nations COP27 climate conference at a posh resort in the Sinai Peninsula. The New World Order, if you like, beast system has more than one component, and they're all gathering in the ancient land of Egypt, in the Sinai, which is a highly symbolic venue, of course, at which to hold a globalist conference, right? If you're going to announce your new 10 commandments of your new world religion, why not go? And you definitely want to usurp the world's one true faith, or you want to try anyway. Why not go to the very place where Moses received the Ten Commandments? Here's how Leo Hohmann, writing, he said, here's how I see the global beast system breaking down. The political component is the educational, academic, media component, the economic and corporate component, the religious component, of course. And all four of these are gathering this week in the Sinai, where Moses received the 10 Commandments from God Almighty. They will receive their marching orders from the satanic cabal. Now, it's not now, but a few hours ago, it was still election day here in the United States. And most conservatives, even conservative Christians, think this will be the answer to all our problems, right? If you just go vote red, right, that will stave off the barrage of evil coming at us from every direction over the last 2+ years. Actually, it really started in March 20 when Donald Trump approved the national state of emergency. So there is no political answer to spiritual crises, right? And that's why we see this new religion forming or being trotted out right now. Leo Hohmann says, while I agree that the election results are extremely important, it only represents 1/4 of the tyrannical pie that makes up the global beast system. A counterfeit kingdom trying to establish itself in the earth under the direct control of Satan himself. Even if we take over all the levers of power in the political system, starting with the election, we'd still have these evil corporations the evil education and media establishment, and the evil religious system that we see here to deal with. 3 of the 4 would still be operating under Satan's influence. Now, at the COP27 conference in Egypt, we get a look at all 4 of these evil components coming together to map out what they hope is the final destruction of freedom on the planet. Political freedom, economic, medical freedom, freedom of speech and press, and freedom of religion. So we can take a look at just one aspect of this 4-pronged attack on humanity, the religious. According to a November 7 article in Israel 365, that's the article we were showing you right here. Global religious leaders are gathering in Sinai to receive what they call the Climate Justice 10 Commandments. And here's an excerpt from it. It says some 40,000 attendees have flocked to the Sinai Desert, including over 100 world leaders, as well as leaders in business and other sectors. Because if you haven't figured it out by now, private and public-private partnerships where corporations and governments more or less merge together, that is the framework of communitarianism, which is the unholy beast, the unholy spawn of communism and fascism having a child. Christian, Muslim, Jewish, and other religious figures will participate in a UN conference on climate change that is taking place this week and next week. In conjunction with the United Nations event, a group of faith leaders is taking an alternative approach, seeking a faith-based solution to the ecological crisis by promoting the 10 principles for climate justice in a global initiative. The multi-faith initiative led by the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development, that is the ICSD, the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development. More on that later. Also, the Elijah Interfaith Institute and the Peace Department. It's part of the 27th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework, the Convention on Climate Change, the COP27, which is taking place this week and next. According to the Interfaith Center, the location of COP27 is especially meaningful because of the Sinai Desert being a place of revelation in the collective consciousness of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and others. It's a site for turning to God and receiving God's message, they say in a press release. On Sunday, the organization will hold a climate repentance ceremony, or many of them, climate repentance ceremonies. How weird is that? Climate repentance ceremonies. They will put forth a prophetic interreligious call to action. The partnering organizations initially intended to hold the climate repentance ceremony and 10 Commandments events at Jebel Musa in the southern Sinai Peninsula. The area is traditionally believed to be the location of the biblical Mount Sinai, a site of great significance in the Bible and considered holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Unfortunately, the Egyptian government said, no, this is too dangerous. They wouldn't give them the permit to do it due to security concerns. So the central venue for Sunday's events was changed to London, a location that was readily accessible to faith leaders around the world and is a major media hub, as well as other locations. Now, isn't it just at least a little bit interesting that they did not get their first choice? For one reason or another, they weren't allowed to go right there to Mount Sinai and do the rituals. Think God's still at work here? It's also a hub of, talking about London here, also a hub of Mystery Babylon and global banking, as Leo Homan writes. A small group of faith leaders will be allowed to ascend Jabal Musa and hold a repentance ceremony as originally planned. Concurrent faith-based events will be held at Mount Abu, India. Boy, tough words here. Rishikesh in the Himalayas. Also in New York City, Ecuador, Germany, Vienna, Salt Lake City, Mount St. Francis in Indiana, and Australia. Joining faith leaders from many denominations, including Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and others. So these organizers have also urged houses of worship around the world. So you might hear about this at churches near where you are. They've asked all houses of worship to join in at the same time on Sunday with prayer and study focused on this transformative moment to protect our environment. The executive director of the Interfaith Center said, "Some people believe religion is separate and distinct from ecology or care for God's creation. Were it not for the receiving of the Hebrew Bible on Mount Sinai, Jewish tradition teaches God would have returned the world to chaos and void. Applying the teachings of the Hebrew Bible to stewardship of God's creation is not just an idea for today, but essential for a future in which we achieve a balanced worldwide ecosystem and thrive on a planet viable for all life." Now, it's a good example of mixing truth with just a bit of deadly poison. Among climate experts and environmental activists, there are some who claim that the destructive process of climate change is irreversible. But Rabbi Naril, who's the main name here, we'll hear more from later, noted that the Bible teaches otherwise. I think their idea of climate change and the book of Revelation's idea of climate change are two very different things. As he said earlier, we need to change the operating system that humanity generated and is degrading God's creation. We need to switch from greed, short-term thinking, and individualistic behavior to spiritual satisfaction, long-term thinking, and altruism. And by doing that, we will address the symptoms of the problem and manifest a new earth, bringing heaven to earth. This goes back to Seven Mountain Mandate eschatology. This goes back to New Age eschatology, Theosophy. Madame Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, all spoke of this idea. It's Freemasonic. This is also a Freemasonic idea of bringing heaven to earth through our good deeds, through our good works. So we have a rabbi at the COP, at the COP27 conference, talking about the need for a new operating system for humanity and how we need to open our hearts and minds to the new age earth-worshiping religion. His choice of words regarding the operating system is interesting. Many folks will pick up on the coded meaning of that terminology. For those who didn't pick up on it, it means religion. It means your faith system. It means your mind. Tyrants need only two things to take over. They need our compliance, and they need soldiers. They don't always have to have guns, though. But those soldiers, either way, we have no control over. These are the cops and the military personnel who follow illegal, unconstitutional orders from evil dictators simply for a paycheck. But the first one, compliance, that one's totally within our realm. Non-compliance is totally within our realm of control. So let's stay vigilant in resolving to disobey every order. Now, I'll amend what Leo says here. Let's stay vigilant to resolve to disobey every order that commands us to do that which God doesn't allow, or compels us to do that which God hasn't commanded. And for us to fight back and expose unbiblical dictates and propaganda that come out of this nasty system. Let us be in prayer to God that he might give us more time in which more people can repent, come to Christ in a time when, a very interesting time, when it's one of the most interesting times in the history of the world to be a Christian, to be on the earth, but especially to be a Christian. This is, if you live in this time, you have to understand that you've been chosen to live in a very, very important time. Now, we're going to talk about the Eco Bible in just a moment, but Summer's got some notes about what we've just talked about here.
Well, sorry, came in hot there. I do find it interesting. It's just coming out to go head to head with the Ten Commandments and say, hey, we're going to rewrite them. Just the audacity of trying to go to the same location. And I know that certain key people will still do that on the top of Mount Sinai, but obviously not everybody could partake in that. And it's a bit triggering for me as well, because I've actually done that. I did a sunrise climb and went to the top of Mount Sinai, and it was amazing. It was beautiful. I've still got a cross from the monastery that's there, and it was a really moving experience. So to imagine this happening is pretty surreal. And the other thing that I find interesting about it is a few days ahead, like Greta Thunberg, she released her book, the Climate Book, and it's supposed to be like a coffee table manifesto, which collects essays from climate scholars. So yeah,
I've got that graphic here. Let me find it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So she's actually making a big stand that she's going to be boycotting it. She's going to be boycotting COP27, just saying that we can't trust the elites and we need to basically overthrow the entire capitalist system. However, she's still, of course, all for sustainable development. So it's just interesting to see that narrative develop. Like, what are they doing with that? Because she's been such a powerful spokesperson for, what Greta Thunberg does. So
yeah,
they're stirring up the pot.
No doubt. Let me find that graphic here.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've got that one here. I've got a quote. We could see her quote. She's an interesting character in all this. The fact that she's speaking out against the COP27 is, well, you've got to offer both sides.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, you've got to play both sides. There it is. Greta says that COP itself is little more than a scam, which facilitates greenwashing, lying, and cheating. Only overthrow of the whole capitalist system will suffice.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be the rewrite of the Ten Commandments into these like climate commandments, basically, or earthbound commandments. So is this her sort of taking the stance of we're not going to believe in God at all? We're not, because this is like disrespect to even the supposed faith leaders out there. So it's interesting.
Yeah, this could be giving voice to the atheist side of the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? You definitely got to run both sides of the story.
For sure.
Yeah, and there's a prayer here. Here's one of the prayers. We're going to be having lots of these prayers and rituals. And here's one of the prayers. And they tell you how to do it. Situate yourself for prayer by removing your shoes. If possible, go outdoors to pray with your bare feet on the earth. Orient yourself in the approximate direction of Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. There you go. Think about this, folks. Think about what you're hearing. If you happen to live in a convenient proximity to a government building or UN office, you might engage your prayer in prayer outside that building on one or more days of pilgrimage. A UN office or a government building. Pay attention closely. They say read or view the day's reflection from the COP27 reflection calendar created by the Dominican Leadership Conference. Enter into at least 1 full minute of contemplative silence. So there's your meditation.
Conjuring.
Yeah, remaining in silence for as much time as you wish. Conclude with this prayer. Here it is, called Shoeless on Sinai. Earth, our common home, is crying out to us through famines, floods, and fires. Remove your shoes of ignorance. You stand on holy ground. Earth, our community is being forced to move away from the spaces that have nurtured our families for centuries. Remove your shoes of apathy. You stand on holy ground. Earth, our common home, is calling us to recognize the true wealth we are squandering in the pursuit of human-made currency. Remove your shoes of greed. Earth, our community is being crushed in every society and ecosystem by excess or deprivation. Remove your shoes of individualism. Earth, our common home, cannot wait any longer for us to remove our shoes and recognize that we live on holy ground.
Neo-paganism.
Yeah, they also offer here, if it serves you, spend another minute repeating the mantra, remove your shoes, we stand on holy ground. So this is blasphemy, because it whenever there's a form of blasphemy that isn't mentioned much, it isn't talked about a lot. Whenever you take Holy Scripture and you use it for another purpose, that's also blasphemy. It's a form of blasphemy. And you can see here where the Lord instructed Moses to take off his shoes because he was on holy ground.
Oh, yeah, this is dangerous.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be partaking in that.
No. Okay, let's move into the next segment here. I want to talk to you about the Eco Bible for just a minute. We'll look at a clip here from the Interfaith Center for Sustainable Development. They're going to tell you about the Eco Bible. Now, and there was a Bible many years ago called the Green Bible. We'll talk about this in just a moment, so check this out.
We're here in the Old City of Jerusalem, near the Western Wall, the Dome of the Rock, and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Many religious people think that religion is one thing and ecology is another thing, and never do the two meet.
So why do we publish an ecological commentary to the Bible? A great man once said about 2,000 years ago, not far from here, that the whole Bible could be summed up in just one phrase. Don't do to your neighbor what you wouldn't like her to do to you, or in the positive, do to your neighbor what you'd like him to do to you. What does that mean? It means that I shouldn't be throwing my trash into my neighbor's backyard, just as I wouldn't want her to do that to me. And that speaks about pollution. And I shouldn't be taking too much water from our common water supply in the same way that I wouldn't want my neighbor to do that to me. And that talks about water scarcity. So we see that the Bible is dealing with many ecological sustainability issues.
The book of Genesis states, "And God placed the human being in the Garden of Eden to serve it and conserve it." This is a deep message for our times. Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory translates it precisely as to serve and to conserve. And Rabbi Amora asked, where is the Garden of Eden? It is on earth. We have an obligation to preserve and to protect God's creation. We're supposed to be stewards of this amazing planet.
In Eco Bible, we bring together hundreds of ideas from rabbis going back over the millennia and contemporary scientists.
And I'm proud to share with you that we just published Eco Bible on the world's biggest market in history, Amazon. I'm also glad to share that Eco Bible has become a #1 bestseller in several Amazon Kindle categories. We published Volume 1 on Genesis and Exodus, and we're going to be publishing Volume 2 on Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
Sabbath is a time we come closer to family, to community, and to God. And much like in COVID times when we're restricted from being able to do our work and to change things in the environment, so too once a week throughout our lives we can experience that feeling of calm in order to demonstrate a more sustainable way of life, which perhaps is a taste of paradise.
There's a verse in the Bible that says, and you should guard yourselves very well. The rabbis understand this to mean, and you should guard your health very well. In other words, we need to eat healthy food, we need to exercise, have fresh air, clean water. This is coming from the Bible. And it's not just about us, it's also we should try to enable the next generation to have a healthy planet and all life on this planet to live in a healthy ecosystem.
One of my favorite insights is that Noah built an ark on 3 levels. And we know that on the bottom level he put the manure from all the animals that he had in the ark. And the question is, why would he do that? Why wouldn't he just throw the manure over the edge and have a lighter boat to steer for the next year? And the answer appears to be that when he arrives at Mount Ararat and he wants to plant a vineyard and his fields, he's able to take the manure from the ship and to plant his crops using this very sustainable and traditional method.
The ecological crisis is not a crisis of the birds and the bees or the trees and the toads. It's a crisis of how we live as spiritual beings in a physical reality. To live sustainably, humanity needs to access the wellspring of religious teachings on ecology. Everything hangs in the balance in this current moment. The rainforests are shrinking, the deserts are expanding, the ice caps are melting, the planet is heating. So with praise to God, we are publishing Eco Bible from Jerusalem.
Okay, so there's that. So the Eco Bible. Eco Bible. There was also, many years ago, something called the Green Bible. Put out by the same people for it's the same reason. The Green Bible, similar to this, goes beyond advocating an agenda. It's actually teaching a bunch of false doctrines. This becomes evident when you see something called the Green Bible Quiz. You can find, if you search on Google for Green Bible, you'll see this. It's been out for many, many years. And the Green Bible Quiz has 7 questions, 3 multiple choice answers for each question. Question number 2 asks, which verse... Now, by the way, the Green Bible is just a Bible, a regular Bible, with certain verses highlighted, certain notes added. But they say which verse, praising creation, is from the Psalms, and gives Psalm 19:1 as the answer. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of his hands. That's the correct answer they give. So the problem here is that this verse does exactly the opposite of what the question asked. The verse is not praising creation at all. Rather, it speaks about creation praising the Creator. Right? This is what we see in Romans chapter 1, where a depraved mind, a darkened mind, begins to worship the creature, the created order rather than the Creator, God. Question number 4 in the Green Bible asks, or the Green Bible Quiz asks, where did Jesus go to commune with nature? The correct answer they give is Matthew 4:23. What they meant to put was Matthew 14:23, where it says, after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone. Now this verse, of course, they say on the mountainside, he's communing with nature is what they would like for you to think. But this verse definitely does not say that Christ went up to the mountain to commune with nature. He went up to pray, literally to commune with the Father. So this goes far beyond stretching the meaning of a verse and actually amounts to defying nature, which is nothing short of idolatry. I've got something I want to share with you too here. A piece I have called that came from an article that we wrote for the website recently, Christians and Climate Change. So just bear with me for a second while I try to pull that. If you haven't seen that, go ahead and look that up on armoroftruth.net. What's the title of that article? Chemtrails Go Mainstream, I believe is what it is.
Chemtrails in the White House.
What else have you got for us, Summer? You got any notes over there you need to share?
Well, I was just saying they're talking about eating fresh and healthy, and I'm like, what, bugs?
All right,
fresh bugs.
Fresh and healthy bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
There's so many contradictions in their messaging.
Yeah, it's disturbing and it's grieving.
It is.
And I want to share with you too. I want to make sure we share this piece here with you, Christians and Climate Change, so that we can make sure that we don't leave you, with all the bad news, so that you come away from this with a solid understanding of what you can do, how you should be thinking about this. So bear with me for just a second. I know I can get this done. Maybe not. I'll get it up on the website here, and we'll take it from there. Before we get to that, though, let's look at this. Do you see the Pope there? You see what the Pope's up to? Pope Francis releases new document on how pagan Gaia Earth worship will be combined with the Catholic Church in the Amazon. So this is from a few years ago, July of 2019, where the Pope goes and accepts this blessing from this pagan priestess. Pope Francis, starting back in 2014, instituted Islamic prayers to the moon god Allah in the Vatican. Now, this is according to CatholicsAreNotChristians.com. It's an interesting article. They covered this event. Some of the theology here might be a little off in certain ways, but it was interesting nonetheless that they were able to do a good job covering this event. Pope Francis has done this many times in his desire to see his dream of a one-world religion come to pass in his lifetime. He's written a document outlining how unsaved pagan tribal people in the Amazon are indeed part of the body of Christ. And back in 2019, when he wrote Instrumentum Laboris, which says that pagan Gaia worship of the earth done by the tribal people of the Amazon fits in perfectly with the teachings and doctrines of the Roman Catholic Church. Francis, for some time now, has been pushing this New Age gospel, and now he's launching it with Amazonians. And the Vatican released a preparatory document for its upcoming Pan-Amazonian Synod of Bishops back in 2019. It contains yet another window into Pope Francis' green-friendly worldview, in which he subtly and deceptively turns traditional biblical Christianity on its head. You'll recall that just a couple months ago, a group of more than 30 Catholic scholars and clergy signed an open letter to the bishops pleading that they hold the Pope accountable for his anti-Christian, anti-Catholic teachings with regard to marriage, moral teaching, etc. They declared him guilty of at least 7 heresies. In chapter 2 of Instrumentum Laboris, the Pope writes, "A contemplative, attentive, and respectful look at the brothers and sisters, and also at nature. The brother tree, the sister flower, the sisters birds, the brothers fish, and even the little sisters like ants, larvae, fungi, or insects. Allows the Amazonian communities to discover how everything is connected, value each creature, see the mystery of God's beauty revealed in all of them, and coexist amicably." Right from the Pope himself. We covered this on Armor of Truth Live number 146, if you want to see more of this in detail. Bear with me for a moment here. Now let's listen just a moment to the Pope. Let's see, this is 2 years ago, and he had a general audience on the 50th celebration of Earth Day, where he sort of deifies the earth, at least anthropomorphizes, makes the earth into a person. Listen to this.
During his general audience on the 50th global celebration of Earth Day, Pope Francis spoke of the importance of caring for the environment.
A causa dell'egoismo siamo venuti meno alla nostra responsabilità di custodi e amministratori della terra. L'abbiamo inquinata, l'abbiamo depredata, mettendo in pericolo la nostra stessa vita.
He pointed out that today's environmental challenges are the result of human actions.
E come reagisce la terra? C'è un detto spagnolo che è molto chiaro in questo e dice così: Dio perdona sempre. Noi uomini perdoniamo alcune volte sì, alcune volte no. La terra perdona mai.
The Pope also expressed his appreciation for the numerous global initiatives dedicated to protecting the environment, referring indirectly to the Fridays for Future movement launched in Sweden by Greta Thunberg in 2018.
Apprezzo sinceramente queste iniziative e sarà ancora necessario che i nostri figli scendano in strada per insegnarci ciò che è ovvio, vale a dire che non c'è futuro per noi se distruggiamo l'ambiente che ci sostiene.
He specifically mentioned two important upcoming events, the 2020 UN Biodiversity Conference to take place in China in October, and the UN Climate Change Conference set to take place in Glasgow in November.
Del sacro rispetto per la terra.
What do you think about that? This also is Nostra Madre Terra. This is also Our Mother Earth, a book put out from the Roman Catholic Church. Lots of strangeness, folks. This one world religion movement is certainly taking shape. Here you can see more imagery. Luke Jerram's Earth artwork called Gaia at Coventry Cathedral. This is back from November of 2021. It's been going on for a while. Internally lit art installation on display at Coventry Cathedral, at the Coventry Cathedral ruins, in fact. 7-meter diameter, 23-foot globe it was. It's been to locations around the world. Recently was seen last year at COP26 meeting in Glasgow, or it was, 2021, November of 2021. They say the piece should give a renewed sense of responsibility for taking care of the environment, said organizers. The sculpture entitled Gaia is on display at Coventry Cathedral from throughout the month of November 2021. The installation features detailed NASA imagery of the Earth's surface, allowing visitors to see the planet in its true three-dimensional scale. Specially made surround sound composition is played alongside the sculpture. I mean, it is pretty awesome to look at, isn't it? You can imagine that would be something pretty amazing to see. But, of course, it's an idol. Gaia is part of the city's Peace Festival 2021. The Guardian had an article last year, too, titled Beware, Gaia may destroy humans before we destroy the Earth. And the premise in this article generally was the Earth is alive and the Earth is going to rid itself of humanity if we don't watch it. So this idea is everywhere. Here's another article from The Guardian. The Gaia message must be heard. From last year's COP26. Delegates, a letter to the delegates. Nicola Campbell and Robert Epton on James Lovelock's article in The Guardian this week, and the one he co-wrote with their father for New Scientist in 1975. James Lovelock wrote this piece. Oops. It says there can be no more hiding, no more denying. Global heating is supercharging extreme weather at an astonishing speed. Guardian analysis recently revealed how human-caused climate breakdown is accelerating the toll of extreme weather across the deadlands. So this is how the Guardian is compelling people to donate. They're using climate scare. At the Guardian, we will not stop giving this life altering issue, the urgency and attention it demands. We have a huge global team of climate writers around the world and recently appointed an extreme weather correspondent. Let's listen to a couple minutes also from the October 2021 Religion and Science. This is the from right before COP26.
Thank you, Your Eminence. In these past few days, a number of young people have gathered in Milan to discuss their ambition for a different planet. As Youth for Climate, let us listen to the experience rising from these days to Federica Gasbarro, who will tell us their expectations for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Ringrazio il Santo Padre.
I wish to thank the Holy Father, the religious and civil authorities, scientists, for the opportunity given us to give voice to young people listening to them. I'm here today to show you the results of Youth for Climate, an event that is part of COP26. The absolute priorities of the young people of the entire world, represented by 2 delegates for every member country of the UNFCCC, are 4. Economic support to vulnerable countries, because alone they cannot face the catastrophic events of global warming, and they are unable to start the energy transition because simply they do not have energy. 0 emissions by 2030. School education on the environment and climate change. Ensure that this opportunity is just
now, I'll remind you
one.
once again on Armor of Truth Live number 146. We went into great detail and we played more clips from this. We'll skip through this now. But, just to share with you, the COP26 and what's happening at COP27 now, they're gonna have their 10 commandments delivered to them, and we could see all this building for many years. Some more examples for you, some more things that are going on. This is from August 2019. United Nations continues to push Gaia worship, saying humans must become vegetarians in order to stop climate change by 2050. So I had some pieces for you. Back in Armor of Truth Live number 146, we made a point to describe who Gaia is, where it comes from. And so make sure you go back and watch AoT Live number 146 so you can understand what it is that they're talking about. Why do they use the term? Where does it come from? And back in, I don't remember the number of the show, but you can see this thumbnail, the human cost of net zero. We showed how this is completely insane, that trying to cut out fossil fuels completely in the world is going to cause way more deaths. So if you happen to believe in the theory that the elites are trying to reduce the population in any way they can, this would be another way. Net zero is suicidal. And you can see, let me grab it for you. You can see that if you like. You can read this book, Fossil Future, by Alex Epstein. This is not Jeffrey Epstein. This is Alex Epstein. This is an excellent book. And he makes his argument well. And in that show, in our Net Zero show, we also demonstrated how it's, we've got a good, wait a minute here.
It was $199.
Armor of Truth Live number 199. And here's some of the great, here's some of the great artwork from the lovely summer. Will we run out of fossil fuels? Well, maybe, but it's actually extremely unlikely because as we showed you in that show, Armor of Truth Live number 199, scientists have been able to produce oil and oil products in the laboratory. And the idea, in other words, what this means is that it doesn't really take.
Billions and billions and billions.
Is that working again? You can kind of hear that, right? Trump saying billions and billions.
Well, we did redo the studio last week, and we're on a different channel, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's frustrating. I've been working with those things for 2 weeks now to get those
sound bites.
Yeah, to get those drops up there for you. But it doesn't take billions and billions of years to make oil. It just doesn't. You know why it's impossible for it to take millions and millions or billions of years to make oil? Because the planet hasn't been here that long in the first place, right? There is just as much evidence for young Earth creation. And if here you can see, of course, AOC, her chief of staff anyway, this was never really about climate at all. It's really more about how do you change the entire economy. That's what it's always been about. And the task of the climate change rhetoric has always been mass behavior changes to develop a new common sense using subtle techniques of engagement. And the facts of climate crisis, man-made climate crisis, all these facts are meant to be so ingrained, right? They do it to the children in public education from a very early age, so that eventually these facts are just taken for granted. And climate change is treated as a brand that can be sold. This from the Institute for Public Policy Research. Here's the book from Alex Epstein. So the answer is no. No, we probably won't run out of fossil fuels. And to show you, here's an interesting bit that we had in that show, just to show you most of the people that you run into on the street, maybe in your family or at work, who are talking about this issue don't know what they're talking about. Here's a survey of college-educated individuals in the United Kingdom. Over the last 30 years worldwide, extreme poverty has what? Has increased, remained the same, or decreased? Well, as you can see there, 55%, let's just say 88% of the respondents believed that extreme poverty had either remained the same or increased. The truth is, extreme poverty has decreased massively over the past 30 years. As you can see there, 12% of college-educated people did not realize that extreme poverty has decreased. Why is that? Propaganda. Propaganda is the reason. Here's another question. What percentage of the world's energy comes from solar and wind power? Well, the most popular answers were let's see here, 32 and 37% of it's actually 2% of the world's energy comes from solar and wind power. So you can see all the other answers. So you've got 37. So you've got 63% of the public who thinks that solar and wind power are really making a difference out there. They're not. And that's not to say that it's not good. It's not a good technology that can be used. It's just there's just no sense at all whatsoever in converting the entire system over to these systems. These are good supplementary systems. They're not meant to be. They'll never be, in fact, primary systems for energy. There you go. That's a depiction of Gaia there. There's the big ball. Another article from the pup. Now here are the some of the 10 commandments. This is from 2015, the Pope's 10 commandments of climate change. The article on our website is Chemtrails and Christians. No, it's not a conspiracy theory. Let's show you that right. Let's show you that right now so you can. Hey, we can actually drop this link in the chat, can't we? There we go. Yep, that's true. We got a strike on the channel. That's why we're over here today. Please check out armorfoods.net and check out a lot of this work that Summer's done there and posting these articles on our website. Here you go. Yeah, we'll drop this link in the live chat for you guys who are there with us now. If you haven't seen this, article, this is a good one. This is going to give you some information you probably hadn't heard. Give you some facts. There you go. It's in the live chat now. 20 beautiful souls tuned in live now. That's amazing over here at 2 a.m. on a channel we don't ever live stream on. So thank you folks for being here. It's good to see you. It's good to see anybody, right? So these 10 commandments of that the Pope, 10 commandments of climate change the Pope put out 2015. Think of future generations. What kind of world do we want to leave those who come after us? Well, that's academic, right? That goes without saying. That's obvious. Embrace alternative energy sources. Right? That's a commandment. He says, we know that technology based on the use of highly polluting fossil fuels, especially coal, but also oil, and to a lesser degree gas, needs to be progressively replaced without delay. Do we know that really? What in the world is the Pope getting involved in that argument for? That's not even true. Consider pollution's effect on the poor. Now we get into some liberation theology here. The gospel is filtered through the eyes of the poor, according to the Pope. Take the bus. Some of this is just good advice. Got nothing to do with commandments, though. Be humble. Good luck with that one. Isn't this interesting coming from the Pope? He says, we are not God. The earth was here before us, and it has been given to us. Isn't that interesting coming from the man who claims to be the vicar of Christ? the substitute for Christ while he's away? Interesting. Don't become a slave to your phone. Don't trade online relationships for real ones. That's a climate change commandment. Turn off the lights. Recycle and don't waste food. Educate yourself. I guess by listening to the Pope, and believe you can make a difference. This is all platitudes. And from Newsweek, back in August of this year, for our sin of emissions, 10+1 climate commandments, from Yosef Abramowitz. I'm going to fly through these. You'll hear more of the same. So it says here, acknowledge a higher power is very important. Like in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first commandment is to acknowledge with humility that we are partners with and subservient to the Creator. Doesn't matter if your Creator is a bridge or a high skyscraper or another person. Just some higher power. Any higher power will do. Says, vote climate. Do not murder. Do not steal. Climate change is robbing our future, they say. We're also robbing our nature of her ability to regenerate. Do not bear false witness. There are sins of omission, politicians not telling the truth about real and immediate dangers of climate change, and there are sins of commission. The same leaders at the annual World Climate Conference, COP27, who are approving new drilling and pipeline licenses. Keep the Sabbath, he says. Emissions are down. Now, this is interesting. This one will get the Seventh-day Adventists up in arms quickly. They say, keep the Sabbath. Emissions are down 30% over the Sabbath every week in Israel and are almost zeroed out on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the holiest day of the year. A global weekly non-carbon day of rest could reduce emissions of the world by a seventh and can be observed by different faith communities on different days. So it's long been said in the Seventh-day Adventist community that one of the signs, one of the things that would be done in the last days would be to create a secular Sabbath. It would be a religious Sabbath, but it would be like this. It would be like if this group right now, it's meeting at the COP27, decided that there was one day of the week that no one could work, no one could drive their cars, no one could do anything, and they would call it a Sabbath, and it would be religious. They believed that would be one of the really important signs. And it's an interesting argument because we can see now that some of this is just before happening. You shall innovate, honor Mother Earth, don't covet, do not continue to be hoodwinked. So these are some more of those commandments. There's another clip. We've already heard what these gentlemen had to say earlier. And here's a piece to end us up with close to the end here about faith for ecocide law. Now this is where it gets a little more scary. Right? This is where we're going to start seeing punishments. Faith for Ecocide Law is an interreligious coalition gathering religious and spiritual leaders and voices to express support for ecocide law. Right? Anyone who, you drive your car on the wrong day, you emit too many fumes, go to jail. We as the people of faith are deeply concerned about the ongoing destruction of our home, the earth, demand a global response to prevent mass damage and destruction of ecosystems, known as ecocide. We support creating legal protection for life on earth by including ecocide as a crime against peace under the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court. All right. So here's what they say. Humanity's at a crossroads and faith communities have a unique voice for the reverence for Mother Earth, the creation, and the existential understanding of the relationship between humans and nature. We are raising this voice in support of new rules for the protection of nature at a global scale. So the crime of ecocide. The Roman statute of the International Criminal Court, the ICC, in The Hague, is where the most serious crimes of concern to the whole international community are being addressed. The crimes are prosecutable by the ICC. These crimes are often referred to as the crimes against peace. ICC currently lists 4 crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. They say this statute can be amended to add a 5th crime, ecocide or ecocide. Ecocide means mass damage and destruction of ecosystems, harm to nature which is widespread, severe, or systematic. Eco, the term, derives from the Greek oikos, meaning house or home, and side from the Latin cadere, meaning strike down, demolish, kill. In other words, killing our home, making the worst cases of environmental destruction criminal on an international level, imposes a duty of care on those with the power to make decisions that affect humanity as a whole. So this is an interesting sight. And they say here, as people of faith from all around the world, we demand a global response to prevent ecocide. To live in peace with each other, we must live in peace with the earth. The rules of our societies are laws, and we can change them to protect what is precious. The world is a living, sacred whole, not just a resource open to exploitation. In a global economy, we need global rules to protect the sacred. The Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, ICC, is, as we said, that's where the serious crimes are prosecuted, and this is what they say. This is what they say, that we need to have a 5th fifth law, prosecutable law, added to the worst 4 crimes in the world, ecocide, so that we can prosecute anyone who doesn't go along with our plan. The principle of superior responsibility in international law holds those who are in a position of power responsible for their actions. It imposes a duty of care on people who make decisions that affect humanity as a whole. They also say here that over billions and billions of years, life has evolved on the beautiful planet we inhabit. As humanity, we share this planet with each other and all other living beings. It's our only home. That's not true, is it, Christians? It is not our only home. In fact, it's not. It's not our home. Not yet. Today, when humanity is behind the steering wheel of the future, we need a shift toward a global understanding of respect and reverence for Mother Earth. We need law to support such a shift. So that's where we are. That's what we're dealing with. Summer, do you have anything else to say about this before we end it up? I'm going to share this piece about Christians and climate change as we close it up here in just a moment. We've gone an hour and a half, which is pretty good over here. So for those of you who may not haven't caught us over on Armor of Truth Live before we got shut down on our main channel, my beautiful wife Summer has joined us now. She's part of the show. She's going to be joining us as often as she likes, every show, hopefully.
I'll just be chiming in from time to time.
Yeah, well, she's the one putting together the bulk of this research that you see come across our channel. When it comes to the topics and the articles and these things we're dealing with. And this is a blessing because it really does. It gives me the opportunity to focus on theological, biblical responses to these stories. So just to take another opportunity here to welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, finally on the channel.
Yeah. And I'm extremely happy to have Summer here with me. It makes things a lot easier. And hopefully, ultimately, what we believe is for you, the viewer, this is going to give you a better experience, a little more interaction rather than myself just here ranting at you all the time.
We love your ranting.
Well, this is a good thing because as it happened tonight, there are many things that Summer brings to the table that I won't think about, I wouldn't have considered, and so it's if you know anything about life out there, man, you know it's always better when you've got a woman's touch. That makes everything better. So I'm glad to have mine here with me. So thank you for being here. It's excellent to have you here with me, and I certainly look forward to where we're headed now with this new show that we have for you once we get our channel back. So anyway, thank you for being here. I love you, and it's nice to be working with you here.
I love you too. This is a blessing. I can't wait.
It's a lot of fun.
Next chapter.
Okay, well, I want to share with you guys now as we wrap it up. Christians and climate change. How do we think about this? Now, we've shown you all these problems here, and we've explained to you what's going on in Egypt this week. But what's our response? How do we think about it? How do we respond to the world? Well, God's awesome creation is something that all of humanity must appreciate and respect and preserve. Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 through 28 tell us plainly how to think about the earth. What is our duty here? Every person should be mindful of our great God as the force behind this creation. God's command to mankind to rule over and subdue the earth means that we must not abuse it. Now, some scientists and climatologists believe that human activity is affecting the average global temperature so severely that humanity is in grave danger of being eliminated by climate catastrophes. Essentially, the climate message is this. They say that greenhouse gas emissions are damaging the environment, and while we're not certain what the effect will be, we know it's going to be bad. Right? Remember what we just learned? These will be facts. These facts will be just assumed. It's assumed that what's happening is bad. While it's true that the activity of mankind does affect the environment to some degree, including the average global temperature, right? We talked about that in Alex Epstein's book. The truth is, over the last 120 years at least, it's longer than that, I think, but over the last 120 years at least, the global temperature has risen about 1 degree Celsius. The facts show that climate alarm is unwarranted and significantly oversold. It's 170 years. That's what it is. Over the last 170 years, the average global temperature has increased by 1 degree Celsius. While also over the last 100 years, the rate of climate-related disaster deaths has decreased by 98%. These are just facts, folks. There is no climate scare. There is no cause for it. Climatologists, ecologists, geologists, etc., are unanimous in recognizing that the Earth has undergone significant temperature and climate changes, despite the fact that these climate changes were obviously not caused by human activity. Many of these same scientists are convinced that human activity now is the primary cause of climate change. Why? Well, there are 3 primary motivations. First, some truly and fully believe that greenhouse gas emissions are causing climate change. They honestly examine the data and come to that conclusion. Second, some hold to the climate change mindset with an almost religious zeal or fervor. Many within the environmentalist movement are so obsessed with protecting Mother Earth that they will use any argument to accomplish that goal, no matter how biased, no matter how unbalanced it might be. It's a religious issue for them. And third, some promote the climate change mentality for financial gain. Some of the strongest proponents of climate change legislation are those who stand to have the greatest financial gain from these green laws and these green technologies. So it should be recognized that not everyone who promotes climate change is doing so from an informed foundation or from pure motives. Climate alarmism for the purpose of advancing some other agenda for gain or control is not new. In the 1970s, global cooling was the prevalent narrative from the higher-ups, with the primary scare tactic being the threat of a new ice age. But the truth is, nobody on Earth knows exactly what the impact of a small rise in the global average temperature will be. Climate alarmism and its totalitarian global agenda are not the only problems. A significant movement within the global agenda has deified the earth and begun to worship the creature rather than the creator. Well, the Bible's not silent on this matter. The Apostle Paul explains in his letter to the church at Rome that one sign of the wrath of God upon rebellious humanity would be when they suppress the truth in unrighteousness and, quote, exchange the truth of God for a lie and worship and serve created things rather than the Creator, who is forever praised. Romans 1:25. The earth is neither to be worshipped nor praised, as many in the climate movement promote, as they push agendas meant to reduce the freedoms of people worldwide in order to protect Mother Earth. Psalm 19:1 says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." As we said earlier, this verse is not praising creation at all. Rather, it speaks of the creation praising the Creator, God. So we have to ask, we must ask, is there anything wrong with going green? That's the big question, right? People are going to ask us this. Why are you speaking out against this? Don't you understand? How are you so sure? Well, there's nothing wrong with going green. Reducing your carbon footprint could be a good thing. Solar panels, windmills, other renewable energy sources. Some of these things are worth doing. If they're efficient and feasible, it can be good. But the most important question to be asked and addressed regarding this new world movement is this: should Christians make any of these things their primary focus? Definitely not. As Christians, our focus should be proclaiming the truth of the gospel. That is the message that has the power to save souls. It is the only message that has the power to save souls. Saving the planet is not within our power or our responsibility. Climate change may or may not be real and may or may not be caused by human beings. What we can know for certain is that God is good, God is sovereign, and that planet Earth will be our habitat for as long as God desires it to be, and not 1 minute longer. Psalm 46 tells us, "Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging." How then should a Christian view climate change? Skeptically and critically, and at the same time, honestly and respectfully, always acting in an attitude of being charitable. Most importantly, though, Christians should look at climate change biblically. What does the Bible say about climate change? Not much. A Christian must remember that God is in control and that this world is not our home. God will one day erase this current universe. Quote, "But by the same word, the heavens and the earth that now exist are stored up for life, stored up for fire, being kept until the day of judgment and destruction of the ungodly. But do not overlook this one fact, beloved, that with the Lord, 1 day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient toward you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. And when the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be exposed. Since all these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn." 2 Peter chapter 3. And God will replace the old with new heavens and a new earth. Quote, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more, neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. And he who was seated on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. Also he said, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Revelation chapter 21. So there's nothing wrong with Christians being involved in a conscious effort to appreciate and even preserve God's wonderful creation, but how much effort should be made by a Christian in saving the planet? Well, our command is to be good stewards. It's clear. Any effort at all directed at preserving the planet forever runs counter to God's revealed plan. The only urgent agenda for the Christian is not to save the earth, but to be about our Father's business of sharing the good news of the gospel, that is, of salvation through Jesus Christ alone, and to share that with as many people as possible to save the souls on the earth from a destiny of God's eternal wrath and hell. Anything that distracts Christians from this duty and the basic reason for our existence is antithetical to God's plan for his people. Light is not to be covered or hidden. It's meant to be revealed. And by its nature, light reveals what is hidden. It is the same with truth. The Lord of all creation promises that it will be revealed. So as followers of Christ, it's our calling to reveal the light we have been given. If you have the truth of God, you have a solemn responsibility to spread that truth through whatever means he has given you to do it. Just as someone who has the cure for a life-threatening disease has the moral responsibility to spread that cure, God lit our lamps. He lit your lamp so that his light would be revealed to the world. He doesn't need us, but he has chosen to use us, and therefore we walk with him. Innocent as doves and wise as serpents, building his kingdom as we shed the light of the gospel on the world, one testimony at a time. And that's the answer. How should a Christian think about climate change? Preach the word, in season and out of season, whether it's convenient or not, always. That's our purpose. All right, Summer, we are finished tonight. You want to say good evening to our friends out there as we sign off? Yeah. Heard about that? There you go.
You've got me on silent.
There you go.
Good evening out there. Thank you for joining us over here on our tiny channel. It's been really lovely to be back with you guys and to see the old faces that we love in the chat tonight. So thanks for being with us.
Excellent, definitely. My friends, we look forward to seeing you again soon. We'll be back with you on Armor of Truth Live next week. Perhaps we'll be back with you here on True Normal TV this week. We don't know for sure because our schedule has been upended by the YouTube algorithms and the what do they call it? The safety team there. So, but we want to be respectful of this platform and be respectful of their rules. After all, it is their platform, and folks, we know they only have this platform because God has allowed it. God hasn't lost control, so we want to be respectful. We want people to understand who we are by the way we show love to one another and by the way we show love to the world. We don't expose these things because we hate people. We expose these things because we love people and we hate lies. We hate anything that presents itself against the truth of God. Those arguments, we will always tear them down.
We do this in love. We do this in love for you guys.
Amen.
Amen.
We'll see you next time, my friends. God bless you all.
Well, that's a rather interesting position coming from a man on a crusade against the evils of technology.
I'm not against technology, Doctor. I'm against the men who deify it at the expense of human truth.
Armor of Truth. Live.
In the age of technocracy, scientism, and pop atheism,
faith is resistance.
Nietzsche, of course, announced the death of God and called for the birth of the Übermensch, the Superman, who would take humanity to new heights and to create a new world order.
Find us at the Armor of Truth YouTube channel and log on armoroftruth.net.